I am Frederick Van Johnson, and we're still here at GlamourCon, and I snagged one of the models here at GlamourCon, Tor Alexander. She is here for a workshop, one of the Mark Dom workshops that he's putting on that I'll be attending. She agreed to hang out with me for a couple minutes and talk about modeling and some of the things that you as a photographer can do to ensure that you're successful when you're shooting models and how to get models and all that sort of cool stuff. So Tor, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. It's a pleasure to have you. Okay, so let's start off with you. How'd you get into modeling and how long have you been doing this stuff?
I started 5 years ago. I started in the British press with Page 3. Quite a strange story how they actually approached me. I was one summer, I was at university and I had a summer job. So when you send in your job application, you had to send in a little picture of yourself, just like a little passport photo. And then the events company that I sent that into, they got approached by a British magazine because they had a model competition. So just out of nowhere, I got a phone call from the magazine and said, would you like to be one of our finalists? So I was like, yeah, I'd love to be. Went up to London, did the whole competition and ended up winning. So I got a year's modelling competition, year's contract and signed with my agency and started Page 3. So it all went from there.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about photographers, right? So you've worked with a lot of photographers up till now so far. So you've maybe seen the range of skill from here down to here. So how do photographers approach you? Like what's the like a lot of the This Week in Photography audience maybe like, okay, I would love to shoot a model like that, but I don't know how to find her and I don't know what to pay her, and do I just trade time for, what do I do? What advice would you give them?
I'd say best thing to do is approach us through Model Mayhem's a fantastic platform, because you know that if someone's on Model Mayhem, they've already been approved by the site, the moderators have seen them, and they've got to have a portfolio of some kind. Even if it's not what you'd imagine the best quality photos, at least you've got something out there, as a starting off point for us to view. And then as a model, the best thing you can do is just contact me on there or go through my website. A lot of girls have their own websites. And if someone's taken the time to email you, then, that's a good start. And I will follow up, whatever the inquiry is, I will follow it up. What you really need to do is give a really coherent intended usage of what you want, because what tends to put girls off is when they get things which offers which aren't really grammatically correct, or they don't really say what you want to do, or a bit of a funny attitude. That's very off-putting. But if you are very upfront about it, because remember at the end of the day it is a contract, it's a business deal that you're looking at, so you need to say what the hours are, intended usage. If a makeup artist is included, that's a really important thing. The best thing I could say to new photographers is don't shoot loads, shoot a little amount and then put more money into those shoots. If you are going to take the time out to make a portfolio and shoot, I think it's best to get a good model, someone that you admire, someone that you want to shoot with, and get a makeup artist and a decent location, because then it's better to have fewer pictures in your book that are quality than just loads and loads of pictures which are not so great. Yeah.
Now I've heard all sorts of stories about the adventures of the model on Model Mayhem and the adventures of the photographer on Model Mayhem. And one of the themes that I keep hearing, especially from models, is that there's a lot of photographers with ulterior motives.
Strange people out there.
Strange people that we call them GWCs, right? Guys with camera that hey, pretty girl, and I just want to see you naked. I'm going to say that I'm a photographer, and then you find out that they're not. Does that happen a lot, and how often has that happened to you in the last several years?
I think it does happen quite often, and the other one is when they pose to be male models, and they're like, let's do a couple shoot. And you're like, no, I don't really want anything to do with this, thank you. I tend to answer those inquiries with a set form back. So I say, well, what are your intentions? Where is this going? And how long's the duration? And then I give my rates and per hour, per level that they want to shoot at. And then you tend to be able to weed out the flakes through that, because then when you come back to someone and say that, then they realise you're not going to be just some girl who's like, yay, let's go and take off my clothes in a hotel room and you can just give me the money for it. So yeah, as long as you approach things professionally and you have a bit of respect for the girl you're trying to hire, you will get somewhere.
Well, how can photographers, because there's a lot of flake models on Model Mayhem too, right? How can photographers avoid that? How can you ensure that the model's going to show up when you at the appointment?
I think it's the same as any self-employed industry. It's word of mouth and reputation goes a long way. Like I'm very careful with my reputation. If I'm ill or anything, if I've got a shoot booked, I'll get there. I will drag myself there. I will put makeup on to cover any looking illness. I will get there. And exactly. And I think a lot of people will make that effort. If you are getting vibes from a model like you think, she's going to flake on me, chances are she probably will. And I think you can weed them out, but just once you start networking, getting contacts in the industry, you can kind of figure out who's going to flake and who's okay.
All right. So last question here. If people want to hire you or find out more about what you're doing and see your work and all that stuff, where should they go?
Okay, I've got my own website. It's www.toralexander.com, and I've got a contact form on there if you want to contact me at all, and I've also got portfolios on there.
Thanks, Tor. Appreciate it.
So much. It was lovely to meet you.
Likewise. All right. I'm Frederick Van Johnson, Tor Alexander. Check out her website, and that's it.